Hi there. So I'm going to be showing Google Sketchup and how you can use it to preview a space that you might be making on a community trip, as I described in the post. And just to point out a couple of things. First, there's the navigation tools in Google Sketchup help you move around. The orbit tool, when you select it and you click and drag, it lets you move around the space. Pan lets you move right, left, up, down, etc. And zoom lets you zoom into or out of a space so you can see more. So in the picture that I showed you of the Dunkin' Donuts, I started by just creating a simple wall. In Google SketchUp, it's all about kind of your viewpoint. If you are having trouble doing something, just change your viewpoint. But I'm just going to make a rectangle which will serve as a wall. Like that. And I'm not going to add much detail because that wasn't the point of the activity. You also can add a counter. So I was showing kids where the counter was, so I just drew space to show where the counter is, and then you can use what's called the push and pull tool to push that up to what would be like counter height. So now we've got a space with a counter. Okay, in the model I showed you, I had brought in like a 3D model of a door, but you could also do something simple like this. If I want to orbit around and show where the door is, I can simply draw a rectangle for where the door is. Okay, so that wasn't really where I wanted it to be, so you can always just take the object. I selected the move tool. Select the object and then click and drag to move it. So that would be way over here. There we go. You have to be kind of patient with yourself when you're learning this, as it can be a little bit difficult to be operating in a 3D space. So I don't want the door to be up in the middle of space, so I can then just click and drag it down. You can also resize it just by hitting the S key. I just brought up the scale tool so I can scale it. So there's the door. So a big part of the fun of doing this with kids is using the 3D warehouse. That's located under the File menu in SketchUp. File, 3D warehouse, get models. So let's say I wanted to bring in a drink cooler. And this is one that might be at a Dunkin' Donuts, so I'm going to click Download Model and load it directly into the Google SketchUp model. And when you come back to Google SketchUp, it takes kind of a second, and you can just click to place it. Okay. One of the things that you'd want to do with an object like this is rotate it. So you click to place the protractor like that. I placed it on the face, and then you can click an edge. So see how I'm bringing it, I'm not clicking and dragging, I'm just moving the mouse out to the edge and clicking again. Okay, and then as I just move the mouse, I'm not clicking and dragging, it lets me rotate the object. Okay, but where this object is back here, so I'm going to move it. And I'm going to orbit a little bit so I can check the scale. It's looking kind of small, so I'm going to hit the S key. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. You can always click on select to make sure you're not continuing to do something like scaling or something like that. And like I said, it's all about the angle, so sometimes you have to kind of quickly orbit around and see where it is that you've moved it, or there we go. This is a good opportunity with kids for them to be working on not telling you when something's imperfect, because it's not going to be really perfect. So I'm just going to repeat that process again so you can see it once more. I'm going to go to the 3D Warehouse, File, 3D Warehouse, Get Models, and I'm going to look for a velvet rope because it's something that can illustrate where the line would form at the Dunkin' Donuts. It's a little bit like Studio 54 too, but gets the idea across. Download model, load directly in, and I'm going to place it here. It's a little bit oversized, and also it needs to be sort of parallel to that counter. It's also down a little bit through the floor, so I'm going to move it up. Okay, so when you're rotating something like this, you can even go down below it to rotate it, which in this case makes sense because it doesn't have too many flat surfaces on the top of it. So I'm going to just get this. I clicked on the center of one of the bases and I'm clicking on the other one, and then I simply just rotate. That's not click and drag, it's just drag, at least on this mouse pad. Okay, so basically shows where the line forms. If I wanted to, I could move it. A little bit. And as I said, it's a little bit big, so I hit the S key and I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. Okay, now I've got something that shows where they'll wait in line. Easy. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking for an image of a Dunkin' Donuts menu because that isn't really going to be in the 3D warehouse. So something like this would work great. Doesn't have to be exactly what the menu looks like. All I'm going to do is click on the menu, click on the full-size image of the menu, and on a Mac I'm going to control click. On a PC you would right click, save image as. I'm going to save it to the desktop so I can find it. I can see that it's named N_51 donuts. And then the way that I get that in is I'm going to say File, Import. Let's see where that was. Here it was. Import. And I can simply place it on the wall. Okay, and if it's too big, I can hit S again, and I can scale it. If I want to move it, I can move it. And that's it. Just takes a little practice and getting used to using SketchUp and not minding making a few mistakes in front of a group. They tend to really like seeing it. That's about it. Thanks a lot, and if you need more tutorials on how to use SketchUp, check the link that's below this post.